I'm great. How are you?
We're in Minnesota right now, and the weather's gorgeous. Everything is gorgeous. So, where are you in the world?
We're in Southern California, in San Diego.
Awesome. Oh, I
Yeah.
love San Diego so much.
Yeah, it's beautiful out today. It's kind of hot, but it's nice. So
That's awesome.
it's great. You said you're in
Okay.
Minnesota. Are you
Yeah.
are you originally from
Yep.
Minnesota?
I'm
Okay.
originally from Minnesota. Both my husband and I are originally from Minnesota. This is my phone.
It's all right.
Um, and we live in Nashville now, but we were quarantined there for quite some time
Mhm.
and going quite crazy. So we packed up our two little boys and drove through the night, 14 hours, um, to re quarantine with some family members up here. The weather is better, and we just needed to see some faces.
Yeah. What's the weather like in Nashville right now? Raining?
I don't know what today is like, but
Oh.
it's always so hot. Like the summers are
Oh.
pretty unbearable and humid. And I'm a Minnesota girl, right? And so
Yeah.
I'm used to like winters and stuff like that. So I get pretty sick of the heat.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm glad
So
you're in Minnesota and the weather's better and you have your family with you. That's good. That's all that really matters.
yeah,
So,
yeah, totally.
well,
Mm.
how did you get into music originally?
Yeah, so I grew up in a small little town about an hour south of Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Hmm.
And I started singing at church and at little community events, county fairs. And I really loved to do it. And so, um, you know, I found my passion for music quite early.
Hmm.
And then it turned into kind of a bit of just an obsession of like, I want to do this the rest of my life. And, I started a band in middle school, and then I started writing
Wow.
my own songs and started cold calling venues as like a kid and be like, please book our band. And so, by the time I was like 15, like a teenager, I had written all these songs, like just really showed a lot of diligence. So my parents sat me down and they were like, well, we have your college fund, but do you want to use it to make a record? So, at a very early age, I got like the school of rock and roll in the best way. Like I feel like it was better than a college degree for me,
Oh
to actually just
yeah.
learn how, this is how you make a record, kid. And then the great thing was is they didn't just give me the money. They said, you got to recoup it. So go out there and work the record and figure out how to make the money back, baby. And so,
Whoa.
I mean, just at a young age, like I just fell in love with performing and just the whole music industry as a whole. Like I loved wearing all the hats. And then here we are. I'm still doing it at
Oh my
34.
goodness. Yeah. Wow. So you said you started a band in middle school? Like a
Yes,
Oh my good. And you're cold calling venues in middle school and
totally.
stuff?
Yes.
What? I have a son in middle school and I would never picture him doing that. So tell me about
This,
yeah, like what'd you play like what was the first instrument you learned how to play and stuff?
yeah, I learned piano first.
Mhm.
And then, my dad played a little bit of acoustic guitar. My mom played a little piano, and they would, um, you know, my dad would pull the guitar every now and then, it turned into him teaching my brother and I a little bit. Um, and then I picked up the guitar, and then it was a kind of a race to like, I want to learn all the instruments because
Mhm.
this is my favorite language. Like, I want to learn how to speak it all. And so, um, moved on to mandolin and banjo and a bunch of other instruments,
Wow.
trumpet, French horn, right? I don't know. I was a band geek and fully embraced all music things.
Wow. You said your dad would teach you stuff on guitar and when you were
Mhm.
younger? Did he
Yep.
play in a band or anything like, growing
No,
up?
no, he didn't play in a band. He was a
Okay.
police sergeant.
Wow.
And so, and my mom, they just loved music. And so, he knew enough and like very early on, he was actually like my backup guitar guy, where he would like be back there on the stool and he'd play and I would sing at, the
Mhm.
little county fair or whatever, until I learned how to play better than him. And I was like, thanks, Dad.
Peace.
Bye.
I was just wondering, since they let you use the college fund to fund the record and say, hey, okay, you're going to learn the business aspect of this now.
Yeah.
I didn't know if he kind of did that and was like, this is how I did it. I want to share it to you. But that's amazing that they let you do that.
It's so amazing. And it was such a great way to learn, right?
Hmm. So
And
you're
it's like,
15 too, you said?
so I was 15 at that point. And the great thing was is I recouped that record, sold enough and recouped that record. And then, I made 3 indie records by the time I was 19 years old.
Wow.
And somewhere in there I made my way to Nashville, Tennessee.
Yeah, I want to get to how'd you get to Nashville? And so you said 3 records before you were 19 years old?
3
And
indie records and toured them like are kind of around the Midwest area.
and were those albums that you wrote and recorded when you were still living in Minnesota, or had you moved to
Yes.
Nashville?
Nope,
Oh,
all in Minnesota. Yeah.
so were you touring? Like, how are you recouping the money? Were you just playing around Minnesota
Yep.
area?
Playing around Minnesota area, like anywhere that would have me. And, I would play bars and coffee shops and colleges and just anywhere that wanted to have music.
Yeah.
And Minneapolis is such an incredible music scene.
Hmm.
For those people who haven't been, like, it just was a beautiful place to learn and grow. And it was very inspiring as well. And so at a young age, like, I would drive up from my small town, drive up to Minneapolis, and like sneak into clubs to watch bands
Mm.
that I really loved, and was just constantly like studying what all my like heroes in the Minneapolis music scene was doing, and being like, okay, I got to play at that venue because cool people play there,
Sure.
and so
Yeah.
it was just an incredible place to cut my teeth,
Hmm.
and play music.
And then you decided, I want to take this to the next step, and I'm going to go to Nashville.
Yeah, I had heard Nashville is a place you should go if you want to do music for a job. Um, and I had heard, it's kind of like a country music hub.
Hmm.
Um, and my mom and I drove down there. I think it was when I was 16 years old.
Wow.
And we had like one connection. And so the thing that I found on that first trip was, yes, it's Music City. And I was so excited that there's a whole city like of people and humans that were like I am, and
Hmm.
that spoke the same language. But I found this songwriting community, and then I
Hmm.
learned that songwriting can be a job. You can actually get paid to be a staff songwriter and just make stuff up. And so I remember on those first few trips down there, I was like, okay, um, the song wins. Really, you can be the best performer, but if you don't have the songs, you're not going to have a great career. And
Hmm.
so I decided then to become a student of songs and really focus on getting into co-writing and just writing as much as I could.
So when you first got down there, how did you get involved with the writing? Were you going? Was there like a writing school you went to? How did you kind of get in that
Yeah,
knit of people?
the beautiful thing about Nashville is it's a town of connections,
Uh huh.
and people are so kind. And you meet one person and they say, "Well, hey, I really want to introduce you to such and such and such and such." And so it was trip after trip where I started with one connection, right? And then they would introduce me to a few other people, and then they helped set me up on co-writes, and they'd introduce me to more people. And so it was like each trip I just got more and more connected. And
Hmm.
I would, once I was done with high school, I moved to Minneapolis and just lived there for a while and played music. And then I'd save up enough money so I could drive down to Nashville, crash on someone's couch, and just like write people and meet publishers and just try and find a place in that city. So
Mm-hmm. So you were making, excuse me. So you were making drives down, and you weren't
yeah,
living there yet. You were just driving from Minneapolis down to Nashville, and
yep.
that's how you kind of built your network. Was doing it that
Totally. And I
way.
did that for years. And I know tons of my friends do that where it's a big risk. It's scary to just pack your bags, move to Nashville. And I was like,
Hmm.
I want a little more of a safety net. Like I wanted a publishing deal or a reason to move down there. So I just took the trips. And I think
Wow.
I mean, I did that for over 5 years until I got
Wow.
my first publishing offer. Yeah.
So once you got the publishing offer, that's when you actually decided to make the move down to Nashville.
Yes.
Okay. And
And in that time, I met my husband, which was really great. And so I met him in the Minneapolis music scene.
mhm.
And so we started taking the trips together. And it was beautiful. Like for us, it was like he fell in love with the city and we're like, we got married and then we're like, this is going to be our great adventure. Here we go. And so we moved down. I think we were, 23 years old.
That's awesome.
So great.
Well, okay, so with the publishing deal, how did you get that? And were you writing? Like I read that you've written songs for like Megan Trainor and John Legend and Dolly Parton and like all these huge, massive names. Like, were those things that were happening before you actually made the move down to Nashville? How did you get involved with that?
Um, They call Nashville a 10-year town.
Hmm.
And so, truly it was, I just kind of knew that going in. I was like, "Okay, it's not gonna happen overnight."
Hmm.
And at that, I had been performing a ton in Minneapolis. But when I moved to Nashville, I kind of just took a break from the stage, from the performing side, and
Hmm.
decided just focus in on songwriting, becoming a better writer. And so I started writing, like fi at least 5 songs a week, and sometimes I
Wow.
do double sessions, so sometimes I was writing up to, like, 8 songs a week. You're and that those first few you're kind of, like, dating people, you're trying to find your tribe, people that
Hmm.
you collaborate well with, and so it was a couple of years of just, like, writing with everyone in town, and then the cuts started to come, which was really crazy, and honestly, still to this day, I am I'm just, like, tickled and shocked when somebody wants to record one of my songs. They love it enough that they wanna, like, sing it every night. That's crazy to me, so,
That's
um,
really cool.
it's nuts, and so within, 5 years of being in Nashville, like, all of these bigger cuts started to happen, but it was hundreds of songs later,
Hmm.
for sure.
What made you decide to or do you still do the songwriting for other people? Is that still part of
Yeah,
your life? Okay.
I love it because 'cause I'll still do it to till the day that I die, and I think it's
Okay.
great for me because, um, it takes the pressure off in the writing room, right,
Mhm.
when there's another artist. So if I'm sitting in the room with somebody else making a record, I can kinda go and dig around in their brain
Mhm.
and, like, help them write their song, and that's, like, really, really fun to me. It's less emotionally exhausting. When I'm writing for myself, it's definitely, like, more introspective. I'm like, what am I think of my audience, I think of my story, and I
Mhm.
can't do that every single day. So I definitely will write for other people as long as they want to write with me.
Yeah. So when you write a song, how do you decide? Do you just know in your heart if it's your song for you or if it's something you'd like to pitch for somebody else to
Yeah.
sing?
Um, I think it depends on the song. Some
Mhm.
some days it's so personal and I'm like, this is my song, no one else will sing it. Like, and some days it's like I write a song, I'm like, I think that's good. I think I like it, but it's almost like trying on a pair of pants or something. You want to make sure it fits right.
Mhm.
And so I'll even like test it out sometimes live and see if it feels like a great vibe for me. So, I mean, it really truly just depends on the song. I think for me, it's interesting. I've thought about this a lot. Ballads are very easy for me to write, and they're very easy for me to be like, "That's my ballad. I want to sing that." But
Okay.
for tempo songs, it's definitely a little more of like, I don't know. I could pitch this. That'd be fine. I don't know why. There's like less of a connection or something there, but
Sure.
yeah.
So you're still doing the co-writing thing now. I was going to ask, like, when did you decide to switch to putting out your own, stuff? Like, I did see you've released
Yeah.
an EP in like 2014, and I want to get
Yeah,
to obviously the next couple of records that in the most
totally.
recent one. But when did you
Well,
decide to do that?
I mean, my plan A has always been I've wanted to sing these songs, right? I've wanted to be the
Hmm.
performer. And so writing was plan B, and it ended up, you know, turning out way better than I had expected. Um and I'm so very grateful for that incredible ride. But I remember it being like harder and harder to give the songs away to other people. It
Hmm.
got harder and harder to see like peers of mine go on and get record deals and like live it out, and I'd be like, "Oh man, that looks like a lot of fun. Like I want to do that." But it took me a while in Nashville to find my own voice as an artist. And I think I've heard a few other people say this happens too, where you move to that city and you see what works too. You see what works commercially and what people are signing, what people are doing. And as a writer, as an artist, I feel there's a magnet to like, oh well, maybe I should just write more songs like this or be more of
Mm.
this kind of artist. And so some morphing kind of happens. And I
Hmm.
feel like I did a lot of like chasing down what I thought other people wanted to hear from me. I did that for years.
Hmm.
And I went around to every label in Nashville over the years and heard no, 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 pass, pass, pass. And instead of signing me, they would say, "But can we, take these songs and cut them on this artist we just signed?" And it was like, I like making money. That's great, fine. Like I don't know, it was, but I mean, that was definitely tricky, and it took all of that long and winding road of like hearing no to just finally step back and be like, wait a second, like what am I doing here? Like why don't I just, go back to that girl that was making indie records at 15 years old and make songs that I just love and not care about the radio guy or the label guy or anything. Let's just
Mhm.
make music that I like, huh?
Mhm.
And so that led me to create Starfire, which ended up then being picked up by a major label and released,
Yeah.
my first major label release.
Wow.
So
So Starfire, well, you had an EP before that. Was that everything to you, or
I
was
had
that
an EP, and that was still a kind of I would say a little bit of self discovery there, where
okay?
I kind of figuring out what
Hmm.
am I doing. So
And then, so the first record the full length that you released, that was like, okay, this is me, this is my sound.
for sure,
Okay, and that's when you got approached by Monument Records, which is
yes,
huge. And
so
you are one of
cool.
what? I think you're one of two artists that are
It
signed to
was
the
so
now
cool.
relaunch of it, right?
It's really, yes, because I mean, originally Monument had these kind of fringe artists. There was Chris
Hmm.
Christopherson and Roy Orbison, and I even believe I think Willie Nelson on it at a time. Dixie Chicks were on it at a time. Like they've had like these kind of like fringe artists. It's kind of the history of the label, and so it was very cool for them to resurrect the label and with the goal to sign artists that don't necessarily fit in the this is the commercial down the middle like road
Hmm.
for this artist. So I'm very grateful for the partnership. It's awesome.
So that record attracted their attention. That first album
Yes.
you put out.
Yeah, because actually, uh, I decided to make the record. I was going to take my own money. I'm going to go into the studio. And as we're getting all the ducks in a row to do that, I found out I'm pregnant with my first
Oh
child, which I'm like,
wow.
it was a surprise. And I was like, this is not how I planned things, but this is excellent. Okay, well, we'll just figure it out. And so I decided to cut the record and then release about 5 of the songs as
Hmm.
the Starfire EP and then have the
Okay.
baby. So I released the music and it just and hired an incredible independent publicist and we just kind of DIY and it just kind of took off and got a lot of recognition. And so at that point I'd had my baby, and Monument decided to start up, and it just seemed like perfect timing
Hmm.
uh, to come together.
Wow. And being like I said, one of what, two artists signed to that label now, that must
Yeah,
feel really good.
there's a few artists, and honestly, it's just an incredible team. What I love about it is it's small team,
Hmm.
but small and mighty, truly.
Right. I was gonna say it's
And
small but part of a major.
it's incredible. I mean, Jason Owens and Shane McAnally are co-presidents
Hmm.
over there, and to have, their creative uh hand on the label, and kind of overseeing everything is really, it's inspiring, because truly they just let me do what I want to as an artist,
Hmm.
encourage that, and they're like, "All right, we'll figure it out, honey. You just do your thing." And
That's great.
it's it's like a total dream come true for sure.
Hmm. With that first record, you said, or with Starfire, you were pregnant, you had your child, and then what with being signed to Monument? Do you feel like, did you get to go on tour, and like what was the next? Like, did
Yeah.
that lift your career quite a bit?
I mean, it I had the dream of signing a record deal when I first moved to Nashville, and it took me 8 years of living there to finally
Hmm.
sign it. And I have this picture of me signing the deal. I've got my yoga pants on, my hair in a messy bun, haven't showered, got a baby on my hip, and I've signed a record deal, and I'm like, this is not how I pictured it. This is crazy.
uh,
But from that point, it really, and I think that this, like, it definitely elevated things. It gives you,
mhm.
a bit more, what's the word, like
Like
gunpowder behind it, like
validity. I don't
rockets,
know.
yeah, and validity, like all of the things. And so, to kind of have their um, expertise of marketing around
Uh,
it was just definitely like a helpful tool. And I was able to do things that I had never even dreamed. At that point, we got to play Fallon, and like, having
wow.
articles in the New York Times, and just crazy beautiful things, and having my first headline tour, which was like, we did like a 6-week thing of my with my own fans, and it was like, this is everything I've dreamed of. This is crazy.
How amazing. Yeah, I read you
Oh,
tour with
fun.
your husband and your family and stuff too. That's really cool.
Yeah, my husband plays in my band, and we bring the babies, and it's a traveling shit show, but we love it.
I love that. That's so cool. Well, you got a new record out now. Your
Yes,
second
no.
your second album with Monument. Tell me about this
I
new
I
album.
laugh because it was released March 13th, which was right when everything got locked down because of COVID, right?
I did see that it was released in March.
Released in March, which
I
is
didn't put the two
crazy.
together when probably the quarantine kind of
Yep.
really was bad. Oh my goodness.
So, it's been obviously a very interesting season and year for everybody. We're all in this together, right?
Hmm,
Um
totally.
in our world, I've spent a couple years writing for this record, and recording it, getting it ready, and then you think about the record build. You're ready to get out there and do all the things. We were on tour with Little Big Town and playing theaters
Wow.
every weekend, and then the week we were about to go do all the crazy stuff, everything got canceled. So it's nuts. But all that to say, I feel really grateful. My team has so beautifully pivoted, and we're just trying to
Hmm.
get the music out there to fans, right? And
Hmm.
any way that we can. And I'm grateful for the internet, live streams, podcasts,
Yeah.
all of that stuff. But I can't wait to get out there and
And
play it
perform.
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tell me about have you been doing quite a few live streams?
Yes. Lots. That's my life right now. The
Do you
life of
enjoy
the
it?
live stream, right? I do, honestly, because it's a beautiful way of connection in this time
Mhm.
where we're social distancing a lot and not really seeing people and not getting to play shows. It really is at least a way to get out there and
Mhm.
connect with fans. And so, The last song on the album is called Lonely Together.
Hmm.
And I wrote it about being on the road and missing my community, but grateful that I have my husband and my family out there. So we're all doing this lonely on the road thing together. All that to say is, I started a live stream series, a conversation series. We titled it Lonely Together. It took on a whole new meaning with quarantine. And and so we've been doing that and it's been a ton of fun.
Is that like a weekly thing?
We
Like
do it, yeah, usually a weekly thing and have various guests
and
and
just
we
come
talk
on
about
and kind of just
yeah.
chat, or do you play it
Yeah,
like a set?
yeah, we usually I mean, it depends who I'm interviewing. If it's like, we've had um poets and authors and actors and artists and songwriters. And so it kind of depends on what they do. We've got a,
Hmm.
ballerina coming up, which I'm really
Cool.
excited doing a dance for one of my
Yeah.
songs. And so it's like, really people in the creative world. And we
Uh-huh.
talk about, the hope is really to just be a light to people in this really weird year. And to just kind of help people feel inspired and push them into like a happy space if we can. So we
Yeah.
play music and we talk about things that make us happy.
That's cool. That's really cool. I'm gonna check it
Yeah,
out. What day of the week
thank
do you
you.
guys do it on? Or is it
Usually
random?
it's usually random depending on people's schedules, but we try to do Tuesdays, but sometimes it's different every week. So I post it on my Instagram, usually the schedule, so people can
Cool.
check it out there.
Yeah. I just saw on your Instagram also that you've released something today, right? With Apple Music.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Want to
Truly
talk about that?
the best part of 2020 was making this beautiful mini documentary with Apple Music. We flew out to LA and reimagined. That's what it's called, the reimagined EP.
Hmm.
Reimagined three of the songs off the album, and so we kind of cut them a little bit more acoustic, a little more laid back, intimate.
Hmm.
And so we released that today. Apple filmed this just beautiful kind of music video vibe of the day in the studio. And it came out today. So there's an EP and a documentary people can check out. Woohoo!
So cool. So cool. Oh, yeah.
So fun.
I saw a couple clips of it on your Instagram. It looks really, really rad.
Thank you. I'm
Yeah.
really proud of it. And I'm so grateful. They kill it, man. They're the best.
Yeah. Oh, Caitlin, thank you so much for your time today and chatting with me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you too.
Yeah. I have
I
like
hope you
two
guys.
questions for you,
Oh,
if you have
yeah,
a second.
I do. Yes.
One of them I thought of, and I wanted to get your take. I wanted to know what if it was like if there was a particular song you remember because you were talking about sometimes it was hard to give away some of your songs
Yeah.
to other artists to sing. Do you remember the first time you were kind of like, I don't really know if I want to give that one away?
Yeah. The first one that was for sure, and that feeling was "This Town Is Killing Me," which is on the Starfire record.
Yeah, I saw that
And
it's on that album.
I mean, it's so my story of like the long and winding road of Nashville, the hard road as an artist.
Hmm.
Um, but how, the difficulty is still somehow worth it at the end of the
Hmm.
day. And I had a few artists asked if they could do it, and it was really hard to say no, but I did.
I'm glad you did. I'm sure the world is too. Look, that one has a lot of plays on Spotify and stuff. It's a great song.
Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
the lyric that resonated with me is when you talked about your grandfather, your granddad not being,
Yeah.
like I lost my grandfather who was like my everything a few years back. So I
Oh,
couldn't
oh,
imagine being in that situation.
I know. And the weird thing about that lyric is, I wrote that song with two of my good collaborator friends, Gordy Sampson and Paul Moak.
Hmm.
And both of them artists in their own right, and they both have stories of missing funerals for their granddads because
Wow.
of because of a music scenario. So we're all three sitting in the room going, "Wait, we're all missing our like great granddad or our granddad's funerals because of a gig. This is That's crazy. So
Mhm. Yeah. I
yeah.
like how you
Yeah.
use granddad also, because that's what I called him too. So I was like, oh, wow, it
Oh,
really
yeah.
is like, right? You know what I mean? Not a lot of people use that one. I think it's more of an English
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, I'm not English.
All right. Well, Caitlin,
Oh.
thank you so much. My last question is I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Oh, I love this question. I should just write a book because there's too many things that I wanted to. I love encouraging young people to find their voice. But if aspiring artists, if you want to be an artist, you've got to like put in what you put in your what do they say 10,000 hours. So if you want to
Hmm.
sing, you got to sing for as many people. Go to nursing homes. Go sing for the not right now because COVID, but go sing for as many people as you can. Like practice, practice, practice. If you want to be a songwriter, write 100 songs, throw them away, start over, write 100 more. Like you just have to get into the groove of doing that thing that you love in whatever capacity. And the other thing I would say is learning to find your own voice and not trying to strive to be, you don't want to be the next Katy Perry or the next Taylor Swift or the next John Mayer. Like you need to be the next you. And so finding, digging really deep, trying on different hats, but trying to find who you truly are because no one else is going to make the music that just you makes, right? So that's my advice. I've got lots more, but I'll stop talking.
Bringing it backward.